like it or not, we're all afraid of being judged. We're all middle schoolers on the inside. None of us outgrow our middle school fears of being judged. Yeah. Oh, what's the popular crowd thinking? Oh, what's Susie thinking when I wear this outfit? That's where all of those fears come up. Like, is my hair right? Is the lighting right? Am I saying that the right way? That inner critic, which was developed in grade school and middle school, is still raging for us as adults. So that's the biggest fear our clients have. Now, nobody's going around saying, I'm afraid. It's a very, very subconscious thing, but it's definitely there.
Hey, small business owners, welcome to Unleashing Video Marketing for Businesses, where we dive deep into the world of video marketing as top experts reveal their secrets and strategies to power up your growth. Ready to elevate your business? Then get set, camera speed, and action. Welcome, my friends, to another episode of Unleashing Video Marketing for Businesses, a podcast designed to give you the best tips on how to leverage video the right way to scale your business. I'm your host, Frank Battiston, and the Director of Production at PowerTale Productions. Today, we have Justin Vajko, and he is the founder and CEO of Dialogue Video Marketing. And what does he do there? He empowers founders and other B2B business owners on how to create LinkedIn videos that establishes them as experts in their field. Here you go. Okay, Justin, welcome to our podcast. Thank you so much for giving us the time and giving us what I know are going to be amazing gems for small business owners. How are you today?
Good. I hope they're gems. We'll see. Hey.
Yes, there always are. There's always something new, and that's the important thing that we want to teach in this podcast is that you never stop. You can't stop learning as a business owner.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, about Dialogue Video Marketing, and how your mission is to help businesses build trust with video content.
Yeah. Happy to do that. So I've been a marketer for a long time, and a lot of people ask me, well, what's the origin story for Dialogue Video Marketing? Because it's a very specific thing we do with video content and LinkedIn, thought leadership, and all of those things. I've been in marketing for a long time and was always looking for an opportunity to have what's called a scalable service. I'd read this book by John Warlow called Built to Sell. Highly recommend it. It's my top 3 book recommendations. And in that book, he talks about a burned out agency owner. Marketing agency owner. I read the book thinking it was a generic business advice book, and I was blown away right off the bat. Like, oh, this is me. And started reading. I was like, okay, so he wants to sell the business, and he doesn't know how. And he finds a mentor who's been there, done that, and the mentor walks him through and shows him through. He's got to simplify. He can't do everything for everybody. He's got to do one thing really well to be able to scale. And then there's a twist at the end. I won't give it away, but that book really set the stage for where I wanted to go as a business owner. There were other people and other books along the way, but that was the one that really set the stage. So I kept my eyes out over the years for that scalable service. And then what happened was in the fall of 2022, I had a client approach me. They were working with me for graphic design work because that's one of the services we provided, amongst many other things. And they said, hey, can you do video for us? And they thought, maybe we could fly out there to LA. This is a broker, and we're in Wisconsin. I said, yeah, we can fly out there. It's $12,000 for the trip, for the 2-day shoot and plus travel. And they're like, oh, pause everything. That's not good. That price doesn't work for us. And I had just come across this idea of, using Riverside as a podcasting platform to do some remote recording. So we did that instead. 30-minute interview. And this client was terrible on video. He was really good at what he did, but he was terrible on video, never made eye contact, stuttered way too much, very insecure. It was his first time, so I gave him a lot of grace for that. And so I thought, who knows where this is going to go with this content. It's not the greatest at all. And the team published it for him on Instagram, and it blew up. His videos before that were getting 100 views on average, and they're just listings videos, fairly generic advice type stuff. Then when he started showing up in the videos on Instagram, he got between 1,000 and 5,000 views on average per video. So, right, what is that, 10,000 or 10 times more on the minimum side? And it got me to realize, okay, there's something here. People want to hear from people they know, like, and trust. And I wonder if there's other founders out there who are trying to build a business and they're trying to do all the marketing stuff the right way, all the corporate-y, big playbook. Let's do let's do the branding thing and the social media thing. And they're really struggling to get traction. And what if we could just interview them once a month and produce all the content they need, make it less stressful? And that was the start of Dialogue Video Marketing.
That's amazing. And that was my next question. How do you help them? How do you help them make it less stressful when you work with them on video?
It's just that. It's just that, right? It's conversation. It's not to say conversational content capture is stress-free, but it's definitely way less stressful when you are able to talk with somebody who is interested in what you do, and they make you feel like you're in a safe, secure place, and they reassure you, and they can crack a joke or two, and then really dig into your expertise by asking good follow-up questions. One way I like to liken it to is if you've ever worked with a really good coach, there's a lot of bad coaches, so I want to qualify that. If you ever worked with a really good coach, they'll make you feel safe and like you, or a therapist even, they'll make you feel safe like you can share anything. And that's our job, my producers' jobs, is really to do that, create that safe place for our clients so that their guard comes down and they can get into the flow of sharing what they know more quickly and efficiently. And that's just huge. When we see our clients really open up and get into the flow, that's my favorite.
That's great. That's great. I mean, I can tell that for me in the beginning, it was stressful to start a podcast because you're always thinking about the wrong things and just not. And I believe that even when we work on video, with ad campaigns and different types of content, one of the things that I find that clients really stress about are different factors like, oh, am I looking good? Or do I look natural? And it's happening in their head, and because of that, what really matters doesn't come across. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. That's a good way to put it. When especially when it's new, right? And that's true of anything new, whether you're on theater in theater in high school, like my oldest daughter's in theater, and the first time you're on stage, right? It's the first time. So it feels like you're thinking about a lot more, and it prevents you from being in the flow, so to speak, in your performance. And that's the same way with our clients on video. And it's not perfect. I'm not saying every client shows up and, man, they're in the flow right away. It takes time. That's the biggest factor. Two factors. One, we have safe people as producers that really do a good job of making you feel comfortable and drawing out your expertise. But the second thing is just putting in your reps. You're not going to feel comfortable going to the gym the first time. Maybe the fifth time, maybe the 10th time. But it's just like going to the gym. You got to do it and get comfortable getting in the routine of it.
And do you have just in layman's terms, like quick strategies or tips that help, just simplify this process and at the same time maximize that ROI that they are going to get from LinkedIn?
Yeah. So, and that's what it's for ultimately, right? It's not just, I want you to feel comfortable on camera. The purpose, the output is I want you to create regular streams of video content so that your audience you can keep your audience top of mind. That's the outcome. A lot of people that we serve, they're not regularly posting on LinkedIn. They're really struggling to make the time, create a habit, not sure what to say when they do. They may be relying on generic AI content, which is not good. That's not your thoughts. That's the thoughts of the world wrapped up into generic AI. There's a way to do it well, and most people don't know. So our clients really struggle to make time to produce really good thought leadership content. Now, mind you, these are clients who are really smart people. They've been in business for years. They know a thing or two about how to run a business in their field, but they're struggling to do something extremely basic. So that's where we come in. But ultimately, the goal is for them to stay top of mind with their content that we help them produce on LinkedIn and other platforms, but primarily LinkedIn. All of our clients are B2B founders or solopreneurs.
In speaking to that, what do you think are the benefits when it's a professional field? What are the benefits of basically putting out content on LinkedIn on the opposite of just regular social media platforms like Instagram or other video platforms?
Yeah. So you're asking benefits of LinkedIn versus the other platforms in a professional setting?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the benefits is that when you're on LinkedIn, people come to LinkedIn for a very different reason. If you ever use LinkedIn, you're using it to find a job or to learn or to grow as an individual. It's not a platform for entertainment by any means. People have called it cringy. That is what it is. There's cringy content on every platform. But the point of LinkedIn is that you show up to grow as a person professionally and in other ways. And so the intent of somebody on the platform is extremely different than the intent of somebody, let's say, on YouTube Shorts, which is my drug of choice. Spend way too much time doing YouTube Shorts. When I'm on YouTube Shorts, It's 80%, 90%. My feed is 90% entertainment. It's sketches, it's clips from different video games. It's all this fun stuff. Every so often there's a clip that comes through that is of a professional sharing some knowledge. And I'm like, oh, that's really good. That's a really helpful tip. But most of it's for entertainment. So the reason but you go on LinkedIn, you spend any amount of time in the feed on LinkedIn, you're going to be just like learning. Snackable content is one way to talk about it. Like these little pieces of advice or tips that help you level up your knowledge in a professional setting. So that's why you want to think about that as a B2B founder. If you're B2C or direct to consumer, use those other platforms. That's where your audience is. Not saying LinkedIn won't work, but LinkedIn's where you want to be if you're in B2B.
Yeah. Okay, great. So you talk about the content buddy system and the Sawdust method. So how do they make video production more sustainable? And if you can tell us what they're about first so that we have a glimpse.
Yeah. Well, the content buddy system is a term we coined. It's essentially what we do, productized.
Yeah.
You find a buddy. You meet with them on a regular basis, once a month, every other week. Now, this should be somebody that you know, like, and trust. Although you could argue it could be something that is kind of a new person in your network, and it's good for relationship building. But then you pair up. And then you meet on a regular basis and you ask each other questions in a recorded Zoom or Riverside room, whatever. And you're asking each other questions about each other's businesses. You're answering, you're having a conversation. And then guess what? After that session, you've got plenty of good content. You can use the transcript to create posts for LinkedIn. You can use the actual video footage if it's good enough to create some shorts. But the point is you're making time in your calendar to not just build a relationship with someone and get to know them, but also create some really good content, because I'm guessing most of the time when somebody asks you questions about your business, they're questions that your customers have as well. The same, what about this? And, just like when you go on a podcast or when you meet somebody for the first time, how does this solve that problem? What problem do you solve? How do you solve it? Oh, that's interesting. So it creates very relevant content as well. So that's the content buddy system. And that's something I advocate everybody should do, regardless of whether they work with us or not. And you can produce some good content that way. Now, the other method is Sawdust method. I did not coin that term, but the Sawdust method is this idea that if you're struggling to create content, you actually already are. You just have to find a way to leverage how and where you're creating that content. So here's what I mean. Back in the days of the sawmills, they'd create a lot of sawdust, right? You're making these boards and planks and you have all the sawdust, and they were spending money getting rid of it. And then one day somebody thought, aha, what if we, instead of spending money on the sawdust, make money from the sawdust by turning it into a different kind of product? So the idea of the Sawdust method is use what you consider to be your leftovers or wasted product as something that can make you money. Now, when you apply that to a marketing context, a content context, all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah. So here's what I mean. Sales calls. You're probably talking with people all the time about objections that they have, questions. Record those sales calls. It doesn't have to be of the client. It can just be you. And then guess what? You've got some content. Webinars, record it, and then turn it into shorts and things like that. Don't just leave it fester out on the web by itself and mold away. Reuse it. When you're even in team calls, record those. The point is, we're all creating content. We're all sharing knowledge pretty often if we know what we're doing in the professional space. So find a way to leverage those existing things you're already doing into content.
That's awesome. Wow. And you're so concise and so good at bringing meaning to everything. I was going to say, so the other thing is a lot of people consider, okay, but I just don't have time for video. I'm a very busy person. So how can you help them shift their mindset from, okay, I don't have time for this, to actually what you have been mentioning all this time? This is important because you can share even things that you would think, oh, this is just extra, like the sales calls, and they would actually be teaching other people about how to do something the right way.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes somebody on the outside to tell us that information we're sharing is really valuable. And that's what our jobs are with our clients, but it's unbelievable how much good stuff is just in our heads that we're just not sharing. The author, the marketing author, the other
Oh,
Seth Godin. Seth Godin said, if you don't share, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, if you don't share what's in your head, you're being selfish. We're all experts. I say that with a grain of salt. Those of us who have been doing this for a while, we know what works, doesn't work. And there's this massive opportunity that we're not taking advantage of in terms of educating the world. We just have to find a simple way to leverage, like I said, with the Sawdust methods, to leverage what you're already sharing into content. If you don't have time, that's why you use the Sawdust method. That's why you use the Content Buddy method. Content Buddy method also works because you're accountable to that time to show up. You set a date and you show up. One of the worst things to do with content is when you're trying to build a habit with it is, I'm going to do, Thursday is going to be my day. I'm going to spend 4 hours. It's this massive block of time. I've spent 4 hours. I'm going to do this work and it's going to be great. And you show up and all of a sudden your brain's like, pressure, you have to do this in 4 hours and you have to write these 5 posts. I know this because I experienced this, by the way. And what happens is you end up avoiding it. And then the next time you do it, you're less motivated. And then eventually you've got this block of time that you never pay attention to in your calendar. Does that resonate with anyone? I hope I'm not the only one. So the point is you meet with somebody to get that content done, or you capture where you're already sharing on video and turn it in. It doesn't have to be video. You can turn it into other content as well. The point is you're doing something.
That's amazing. And do you have, I know you probably can't say names. Obviously you can't, but at least story-wise, or even if you tell me John Doe, do you have a story?
I've got plenty of, yeah. Yeah, Lenore's one of my favorite clients. She's a VC and out of New York. And she wasn't doing anything with her content, with her LinkedIn. I shouldn't say she wasn't doing anything. She was doing the basics. Like there's an event she went to, she would post about that. There was an interesting post she found on LinkedIn. She would share that. And that's, I think, a pretty typical story for a lot of founders and a lot of folks on LinkedIn who are kind of floundering to show up. And this is interesting. I know I should be here, but I'm not making time for it. And you kind of share a few things, then you go on your merry way. And the thing was, Lenore, really well-known VC off of LinkedIn, speaking on stages, creating programs, doing some really incredible things with her firm that other VCs were not doing in terms of like executive coaching, building community for her founders, building out a team that was a really cool team. I could go on and on, but she couldn't make the time for LinkedIn. And so when she started working with us, over the course of 9 months, her engagements shot up. I think it was 365% over her previous content. And 365 times what she was getting before, more engagement, and 77 times more impressions just by regularly posting what we were able to help her capture in video content. And it really showed her. And then, she got filled events from it. She got really cool partnership conversations started in the VC world. Partnerships are extremely important when you got financing partners and things like that. And a host of other things I can't even think of right now. But basically what she did is she had an opportunity. It's like she had this room in the house of her business that she was never stepping into, never spending enough time in enough. It's an opportunity cost room. And that was LinkedIn for her. So when she started opening the room and we made a way for her to spend time in that room, that is LinkedIn regularly, just capturing that knowledge she already had, she already was sharing with her clients and folks on stages. That was the opportunity cost that she was able to mitigate by working with us. And now it's a steady stream of business results across the board for her.
And Ken, is it okay if, do you have just another story that you could share? I mean, I think the reason is because I really want people to relate to this.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
You bet. There's another one. Let me think. We've got quite a few clients. The Perk is one of my favorite clients. They're a consulting / coaching firm out of Madison, Wisconsin, kind of local to us here in Wisconsin, or me in Chippewa Falls. But they always wanted to do video content. They were doing other regular written content, but you got to understand, Leah at the Perk has the most incredible presentation personality. Like if you think bubbly, that is Leah, but she wasn't leveraging that. All of her posts were written. And so, when you read a post, you're reading it in your own voice. And that's fine. We can and should be creating content that's in the written format. But clearly something's missing if you have an amazing personality that's just so attractive for people to behold, and you're not leveraging that. So she'd been told for years, you got to do video content. You got to do video content. So it made time for us and started getting on video, got tons of engagement and views. And that's the typical story for all of our clients, is like they just don't have a mechanism by which, or a system by which, to get on LinkedIn regularly. And the results aren't always one-to-one, right? I can't tell you, oh, Leah, she got all this new business and she got, this thing or that other thing. What we do with our video content is we're not a silver bullet. What we do is we're leveraging the power of personality and your knowledge and the value you bring in a conversation. And we're leveraging that to build trust at scale. And it's I call it a sales enhancer, not a sales tool, so to speak. You still need to do all the normal stuff that you do in a business to sell, to make those one-to-one connections. But boy, is it incredibly helpful when you show up to a sales call, and this is all of our clients' experiences. Show up to a sales call and somebody says, I feel like I already know you. I'm bought into your philosophies. Let's get to work. Like, the quality of those leads is unbelievable. And that's the goal of any good content plan, but specifically with video content.
That's amazing. Amazing, Justin. One last question I want to so I know we kind of have been addressing it all throughout, but what is the most common, what do you think psychologically, what's the most common fear that people will have, when they are just starting making video content, and what's the best way to overcome it and to work it themselves so that they don't feel like, okay, I'm the only one living through this?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of people identify with the idea that, you're, like it or not, we're all afraid of being judged. We're all middle schoolers on the inside. None of us outgrow our middle school fears of being judged. Oh, what's the popular crowd thinking? Oh, what's Susie thinking when I wear this outfit? That's where all of those fears come up. Like, is my hair right? Is the lighting right? Am I saying that the right way? That inner critic, which was developed in grade school and middle school, is still raging for us as adults. So that's the biggest fear our clients have. Now, nobody's going around saying, I'm afraid. It's a very, very subconscious thing, but it's definitely there. And so the way you overcome a fear is that you find a way to just get started with it and find a way to keep doing something to address that fear. You don't overcome fear by thinking about it. You overcome fear by doing something about it. In the psychotherapy world, what is that called? That therapy when you're afraid, like someone's afraid of spiders, and the only way to stop getting afraid of spiders is like you go around spiders in a safe environment, right? There's a name for that. I'm sure somebody will know exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm not sure about the name, but actually you hit on a note, because I'm actually very afraid of spiders. So that's what it is. Yeah,
if you wanted to overcome that fear, the way you would do that is you would, okay, let's go to the spider section at the zoo, and it's safe, and I go and I just dip in one day. Okay, that's all I need to do. And the next day, but what does that take? It takes intentional, I want to change this fear. And number two, it takes action on a regular basis. Number three. So that's what I would recommend. This is not fun. This is not a hack. It's just, you got to take some action to overcome that fear. If it's you in the camera recording once a day, I've heard a really good tip, which is, your first few videos, just give yourself permission not to publish them. Just record without publishing. And this is assuming you're doing it on your own, by the way. But if you're doing video with someone else, maybe that's the same permission you need to give yourself. Do that content buddy system we talked about before. Meet with somebody regularly, ask them questions, build that trust with them and build that relationship. And then maybe you decide, I don't want to use my video content just yet, but you can use the transcript and create a post from it and inspiration for all of your content for the week. And then maybe it takes courage. After a time, you're like, okay, now I'm ready. Ultimately, there's going to be some people who decide that they're never going to do it. And that's fine. I'm not saying everyone should do video, but if you want to overcome it, you got to take the plunge into the cold water at some point. You can't dip your toes in.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Justin, wow. You said I wasn't sure if I was going to give gems. You did give gems. So thank you. Give us gems. So thank you very much. Yeah. Specifically with that last one, I think it's very personal. And I get a lot of friends, sometimes they see this podcast and they say, I wish I could do a podcast about this because I'm good at this, but I just can't get myself through the fear of, am I going to do it right? Am I going to do it wrong? So thank you for giving us the answer in this last question, because I think basically you responded for me whenever they do ask me about
Take
this.
That clip, send it to them.
Absolutely. Yes. Short clip, share it with them, and also of course, LinkedIn now that, we know that it's definitely a platform that we need to leverage specifically in a professional basis, because that's where people are watching and want to learn about specific topics.
Absolutely. Yeah, people want to get to know each other, and that doesn't change in the business world, and so that's why video is so important. Text posts are great, but video builds that trust in you before somebody ever picks up the phone and call you.
It provides that human factor, that relatable factor.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Justin, thank you so much for being here with us, for giving us so many tips specifically for people that really can't get past that threshold of creating video content, and that sometimes it doesn't have to be at all Hollywood video content. It just has to be information that people
valuable
need to
content. That's
valuable
right.
Content. Exactly. That's
what
puts you
matters.
as an expert in your field. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thanks, Frank. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Yeah. That was Justin Vajko, my friends. And if you want to know more about him and his company, Dialogue Video Marketing, check on the show notes. Also, don't forget to subscribe, follow us, share, like wherever you're listening to this podcast and watching it, of course, so that we can bring you awesome experts like this in future episodes. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next time.